Hi students, this is Sadhna Deshpande from Saraswat International Academy. Remember, last time in the previous part of this second chapter of your 12th standard English, Lost Spring, we have seen how the author has shared her experience with the rag picker boy Sahib, and she had given us a glimpse of the rag picker's world to us. So today, let us continue with the chapter and start studying that. I hope last time you must have read the lesson at home and you must have tried to understand it. So now, today, let us continue with the reading of the chapter. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note, Sahib says, his eyes lighting up. Now, when the author and Sahib, they were discussing about Sahib's condition, and then when author told us about their livelihood, at that time she was just discussing the matter with Sahib, that why he doesn't go to school and what was his condition to do such work, to do rag picking. At that time, we have seen that garbage to those children is gold. Now, he tells author that I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note. It means that his eyes lit up at that time when he was telling it. It means that a 10 rupee note also is so precious to him, and that's what he is happy about. When you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging, for there is a hope of finding more. Now again, we have seen the meaning of scrounging, that is searching for something. Now suppose if you are thinking about finding out something like silver, and if you find out something else more than that, what you are searching for, then you don't stop searching, because there is a hope of finding something more. And that's what Sahib is doing. It seems that for children, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. Their parents, they were looking at the work as a mean of finding out the earning or earning livelihood for them. But the children, small children like Sahib, the meaning is totally different. More than that, what the parents mean for that. For the children, it is wrapped in wonder. For the elders, it is a means of survival. So as you know, small kids, they are enthusiastic about every single thing, and that's why small children, small rag pickers, young rag pickers, then they were more enthusiastic because their work was wrapped in wonder. It's the world of wonder for them. It's the world of finding out something more from that garbage to them. The world, which means for the elders, that is a means of survival, that is the means of their livelihood. One winter morning, I see Sahib standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. I like the game, he hums, content to watch it standing behind the fence. I go inside when no one is around, he admits. The gatekeeper lets me use the swing. Now, you must have observed that whenever any match is being played on any ground, there are always onlookers for that. People standing out and watching the game, children watching the game enthusiastically. So that's what is happening with Sahib also and with author also. One winter morning, the author saw Sahib standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club. There must be one club where the game of tennis was being played. So Sahib was standing at that, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. But obviously, when it was tennis ground, so the game of tennis was being played over there, and Sahib was just observing it from outside. He says, I like game, he hums. So he says it in continuation that he likes the game, content to watch it standing behind fence, because he must not be allowed to get inside, and that's why he observes the game behind the fence. I go inside when no one is around, he admits. So he admits it to the author that whenever nobody is there inside the ground, at that time he goes inside. The gatekeeper lets me use the swing. There must be one swing. Swing is jhula. Okay, in local language, vernacular language, we call it jhula, swing. So then, at that time, he used to get inside when no one is there inside, and he admits that the gatekeeper lets him use the swing over there. Sahib too is wearing tennis shoes that look strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. Now see, here you need to understand his economical condition. Already the author has told us that he was most of the times without the shoes. But now this time, when he met author, at that time he was wearing tennis shoes, which was obviously looking strange because he was wearing discolored shirt and shorts. So that was not in coordination with his clothes. Those tennis shoes, they were looking absurd. Someone gave them to me, he says in a manner of an explanation. So at that time when author saw that he was wearing shorts and shoes, so at that time she must have looked at him questioning something. So he gave that explanation that someone gave them to him. The fact that they are discarded shoes of some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them does not bother him. So actually, he might have taken those shoes which were discarded by some rich boy. Now we all know that because we are much more privileged than others or than the poor people. So what do? We don't have importance of our belongings, and that's why so little bit wrong thing happens to our belongings, we just throw the things. So the same case with the shoes must have happened, and then Sahib must have taken those. The children or the child might have refused to wear them because there was a little hole in one of them. But that hole doesn't bother Sahib because it was a treasure for him. He always wanted the shoes. So that's why he was not bothered about a hole in them. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. Now suppose if you don't have anything at one time, and even if you get that particular thing with little bit fault in that faulty thing, but then also you just accept it. Why? Because you must have dreamt for it. That was the same thing happening with Sahib also. When he got the shoes with little bit hole in that, so it was a dream come true for him. Why? Because he had never worn any shoes. But the game he is watching so intently is out of his reach. The game was of tennis. That was obviously out of reach of Sahib. He can never play the game. That was a sure thing. but still he was watching it intently. Here, the meaning of intently is eagerly. He was watching it eagerly because he wanted to see that. This morning, Sahib is on his way to the milk booth. In his hand is a steel canister. Now, canister is a container, a tin container. So, when next time author just saw Sahib, at that time he was having one steel container with him and he was going to milk booth. I now work in a tea stall down the road, he says, pointing in the distance. So now he must have started doing something else, except for picking up the rags. And that's what he is telling to the author. I now work in a tea stall down the road. He just pointed it to the road in the distance and then he told author that now he had started working in a tea stall. I am paid 800 rupees and all my meals. Wow, that must be a great deal. That must be a great amount which was paid to him. And again he was given his meals also, his food also. Does he like the job? I asked. So now the author asked whether he liked his job or not. His face, I see, has lost the carefree look. Now see one thing, the work which you do forcingly, that work doesn't create any interest in you. Probably when author had seen Sahib previously, he was doing the work of picking the rags, but still, because he was interested in that, he was so carefree. Now he is doing the work forcibly, forcefully, and that's why that carefree look had gone from his face. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so lightly over his shoulder. Now, why this thing must have happened? Because Sahib was interested in doing the work which he used to do previously. But now the canister seems to be, he feels that the steel canister is heavier than the plastic bag which he used to carry so lightly. Why? Because he was interested in that. The bag was his. The canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop. Now previously, when he used to carry the bag was his own. It belonged to him. That's why it felt lighter to him. But now the canister belonged to somebody else, the man who owns the shop. And that's why Sahib is no longer his own master. Now, to be his own master means to work freely. When you work with free mind, when you are working independently, at that time you are happier than when you do the work for somebody else. And that's what had happened with Sahib. Now, here we end the first story. Now, we are going to start with the second story. Remember, students, I know this is a longer lesson and probably you will get bored to listen to the lecture continuously. Don't worry. You just listen to it at your own convenience. You can listen just to first part. Afterwards, you can stop listening. But then, I will just continue with the explanation whenever it will be comfortable to you. At that time, you can just listen to that. You can read the lesson and then you can understand it. Okay. So now let us continue with the reading. I want to drive a car. Now here we are starting with the another story which author is telling us. Previously, Sahib was our hero. Now this time Mukesh, another boy, is our story hero. I want to drive a car. Mukesh insists on being his own master. Now we know as human being is like a free bird. He wants to be independent. He wants to be his own master. And that's why Mukesh insists that he is his own master. I'll be a motor mechanic, he announces. He is free to announce what he wants to be, and that's why he is happy. He insists, he says that one day he would be a motor mechanic. Now, again, the author is telling us the story, so that's why the author asks, do you know anything about cars? I ask. So, obviously, see, if you are doing something, you must know at least little bit about the thing which you are dealing with. And that's what the author is asking. That if you want to be a motor mechanic, you know anything about the cars? But then see the answer which Mukesh gives. I will learn to drive a car, he answers, looking straight into my eyes. Now see, the phrase looking straight into my eyes, looking straight in one's eyes means looking bravely at something or to somebody. That's what Mukesh is doing. Mukesh is brave person. He is free. He is independent. And that's why he's saying that, okay, no problem. If I want to be a mechanic, I will learn to drive a car. His dream looms like a mirage amidst the dust of trees that fill his town, Firozabad, famous for its bangles. Now you must have heard about Firozabad. The town is very famous for bangle making. His dream looms like a mirage. Now mirage is such a condition. Whenever you drive a car in summer season, you must have observed that in front of your car to a little distance there seems to be water. But actually as you go nearer, the water seems to be going far away. That's a mirage. Mirage where the thing is actually not there but you feel. So then his dream looms like a mirage amidst the dust of streets. Actually, so the people, those who work over there in Firozabad, making the bangles, they are not that rich people. But still, so the dream of Mukesh that just surrounds him like a mirage. Mirage is the illusion. It is the center of India's glass blowing industry where families have spent generations working around furnaces, welding glass, making bangles for all the women in the land, it seems. Now, Firozabad is the center of India's glass blowing industry. All the families, or most of the families there, they must have spent their generations working around the furnaces where you need to weld the glass and then making bangles for all of the women in the land. So most of the women, they are engaged in bangle making over there at Firozabad. Mukesh family is among them. None of them know that it is illegal for children like him to work in the glass furnaces with high temperatures in dingy cells without air and light, that the law, if enforced, could get him and all those 20,000 children out of the hot furnaces where they slog their daylight hours, often losing the brightness of their eyes. Mukesh family is one of the families those who are engaged in making the bangles. But probably nobody knew over there that it is actually illegal. It comes under the child labor law that a child below the age of 14 is not allowed to work. And that's why. So they didn't know actually that it is illegal, that the children, small children, they work in high temperatures in dingy cells. Now the meaning of dingy is dark and dirty. There used to be dark and dirty cells without air and light. There was not enough light also. They were just working over there. 20,000 children, nearly 20,000 children, they were working in those factories at those places in hot furnaces where they slog. Now, the meaning of slog is they work continuously. They work continuously over their daylight hours, often losing the brightness of their eyes because they work in the bright light, and they start losing the brightness of their eyes. Mukesh's eyes beam as he volunteers to take me home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt. Now, Mukesh's eyes beam. The meaning of beam is shine. So when he was taking the author along with him to his home, at that time he told her that his house was being rebuilt. We walked down stinking lanes choked with garbage, past homes that remain hovels with crumbling walls, wobbly doors, no windows, crowded with families of humans and animals coexisting in primeval state. Now, here the author gives us the description of Mukesh's home. Actually, as he was staying in a hut or a tent, that's why when the author went over there, at that time they were just walking down stinking lanes, stinking where you can just smell a bad smell. So, the place where they were walking around, that was a place which was stinking, and the place was choked with garbage which was thrown here and there. Past homes that remain hovels. Now, see, the meaning of hovels is small dirty houses. So there were small dirty houses with crumbling walls. Crumbling means, the meaning of crumbling is falling apart, getting separated. So the walls seemed to be falling apart here and there, and wobbly doors. The meaning of wobbly is unstable. No windows, there were no windows to the tents. They were crowded with families of humans and animals. So humans and animals, they were coexisting. They were staying together in a primeval state. Primeval is ancient. So as if it was ancient time and they were staying in that way. This is the description of Mukesh's home. He stops at the door of one such house, bangs a wobbly iron door with his foot and pushes it open. So then after going over there, he just banged the wobbly door of the home with his foot and he just pushes it open. He pushed it open. We enter a half-built shack. Now, the meaning of shack is hut. So, previously also I told you what was the condition of the home. It was just a hut. In one part of it, thatched with dead grass. Again, students, here so many difficult words have come. So it is better you note them down. Otherwise, afterwards, whenever I'll give it to you at that time, you note them down in the notebook. Thatched means the meaning of thatched. He stops there, and one part of the room was thatched with. The meaning of thatched is having a roof of dry grass and straw. Thatched with dead grass is a firewood stove over which sits a large vessel of sizzling spinach leaves. So that was the content of the large vessel. On the ground, in large aluminium platters, are more chopped vegetables. Now here, the word platter means dish. So in a large aluminium dish, there were some more chopped vegetables. A frail young woman is cooking the evening meal for the whole family. Frail means thin. The woman was thin and she was just cooking the evening meal for the whole family. Through eyes filled with smoke, she smiles. Obviously, because she was cooking on the stove. That's why the room was filled with smoke. And then the woman, she just looked up and gave a smile. She is the wife of Mukesh' elder brother. As we know that the whole family was staying together along with some animals. So there was Mukesh's elder brother also. She was also staying along with them. And the lady was cooking the meal. Not much older in years, she has begun to command respect as the Bahu. So as you know, whenever the new bride comes home, so then she takes little bit time to get the respect as the Bahu. So that's what was happening with the lady. But already she had commanded the respect as the Bahu, the daughter-in-law of the house, already in charge of 3 men, her husband, Mukesh, and their father. Now, as they were staying in joint family, so all of them, they were staying together. There was her husband, Mukesh also, and their father also. She was in charge of them. It means that she was serving all of them. Because it's a duty of the Bahu. It's a duty of the daughter-in-law to serve all others. That's what she was doing. When the older man enters, she gently withdraws behind the broken wall and brings her veil closer to her face. Now see, it's a normal custom in many of Indian families that whenever the elderly persons, they will enter the home, the Bahu, the daughter-in-law, she would just put herself behind a veil. Veil is, in vernacular language, we call it parda or burqa. So that's what she had done. When the older man, the father-in-law, when he entered over there inside, so she just put her face behind the veil. As custom demands, daughters-in-law must veil their faces before male elders. So then, I have already told you it's a custom in many of the families still, many of Indian families, to just put a veil on their face when any elderly male person enters. In this case, the elder is an impoverished bangle maker. Now, the word impoverished is the verb form of poor, the one who is made poor. So, the elderly one who entered over there, he was impoverished. He was a poor person. He was a bangle maker. Despite long years of hard labor, first as a tailor, then a bangle maker, he has failed to renovate a house, send his 2 sons to school. All he has managed to do is teach them what he knows, the art of making bangles. Now remember one thing, already I had told you that they were all poor people. They were all bangle maker. So it was in their tradition to become a bangle maker, and normally they are poor people. So, despite long years of hard labor, he must have done hard labor for many years. But at first, he worked as a tailor, then a bangle maker, but still, he has failed to renovate a house. He didn't renovate his house for longer time, but still he sent his two sons to school. So he has managed to send the sons to school. All he has managed to do is teach them what he knows. But it was obvious that because he knew only bangle making, and that's why he has taught them the same thing. But remember one thing, that was also not lesser thing. It was difficult for them to send their children to school. Whatever he knew, he had taught them. Now students, here we end the second part of our explanation. I hope again you just read the lesson, go through the lesson till now and note down the difficult words meaning. Even though you miss it out, I am going to give it to you at the end of the lesson, which we will be completing in our next part.